Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. If you read the title for this, I'm today reviewing another book and I'm going to talk about The Door of No Return by Kwame Alexander. This is apparently the first one in a trilogy according to the beginning of the introduction thing in this. This is also an arc and it is being released on the 27th of September, so only in a few days. Now, this is quite a sad book, but also a quite different book. This is set in the Ashanti Kingdom in 1860, which is a region in West Africa, and it is today's Ghana. We follow 11-year-old Coffee, who is living his life, going to school, living his life, and he's gonna have this race against his cousin, and then his brother is chosen out in this wrestling competition to represent the upper quanta where they live. So there's like upper and lower, it's kind of like split into those two parts. Then something really terrible happens under that competition, and then a lot of other things unfolds for our main character. I will get a bit into that, and I won't spoil the story, but I would definitely talk about certain thing that happens, because going into this book and not knowing that, I think is absolutely terrible. The setup for the story, the atmosphere, just getting to know his life. And the thing about this book is that it is written in verse and makes it a really fast-paced read. It's like 400 pages, but it took me like a really short time to read it, obviously, because it is written in verse, and haven't read too many books with that. Barely any, actually. Like, literally the one I can come up with right now is Elizabeth Acevedo's books, and they are beautiful and wonderful. And this was definitely beautiful too. Really makes it for a different story to read into. I think a lot of people will find the book like more beautiful because of it. So I want to have like some examples of the writing, because sometimes I was just feeling like I was just hitting the space bar a bit, which sounds a bit mean, but it's like maybe it has something to do with how I read it, and maybe something to do with like if I like listen to it being read to me, maybe it would be like more, I don't know what's gonna say, poetic, but like I still like it. But if you think about like the sentence itself alone, it is more like you could have just written that out in a sentence. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not a good analytic thinker, okay? But it's more like the gong is rung and we rush to line up outside the schoolroom in rows of 10 for inspection. And it's like, are you supposed to have space in between space every time you read, you know, like a pause, I mean? Or like I like it, it's nothing to do with that, but I'm also trying to think like, why are we writing like this? And I felt like when I read this before, it was like kind of really beautiful writing, but here sometimes it just felt like could have just had it as a sentence. But I don't know, maybe that's the point. I am not known a lot to this kind of writing, so don't listen to me, but that is just a thought I had, like, yeah. But it definitely like makes up the atmosphere of the book, and I still liked it, and I still think it is beautiful, because there's definitely beautiful parts as well. Like here is another page where it's like more like, I don't know, dreamy is my word. A torch in the sky blazes, and somewhere a dawdling fish eating lunch perhaps is caught in a net while his friends watch. And I felt like that was prettier. I don't know how to talk about writing. And again, I was really into it. But sometimes as well, you know, when you read, I don't know, I can't really call it poetry, but when you read poetry, which, you know, is usually sort of towards small text, the meaning is lost to me, because I'm kind of stupid, but that's maybe just like old poems. And then I was just like, what if I read a book written like this, and then the meaning is lost to me because I'm stupid? But it was not at all. Like, it's a beautiful book written beautifully, where you definitely get the whole story, and I completely lost myself in the story. So, I don't know, that's just some thoughts on the writing. I don't know how others feel about it, but I just want to talk about it, because writing, you know, does make the book quite unique, so it's, you know, important to mention. And yeah, I really like getting to know Coffee in his life, where he was from, with his family, what he was doing, this race with his cousin, and how he was training for it, etc. But then the unthinkable happens, and the unthinkable is that he is being sold off as a slave. So I feel like I need to say that, even though I don't know if you can say that a spoiler. It doesn't say in the synopsis. It just says the unthinkable happens. And I mean, like, that could be several things. And I feel like you cannot go into this book not knowing that, because it could be a severe trigger for people, etc, etc. And I don't know, I'm not black, obviously, so I feel like it's not my place to say if people would want a book like this written, if people would enjoy it, or just feel like, why would you want a story, or if people, like, would absolutely, like, love it. You know, it comes from a black author, and an author that wanted to write about this. Maybe some people would just think it's beautiful and follow, etc. But I feel like it's not my place to say whatever, where it lies, you know. But I definitely know people that don't want to read another story where a black main character gets enslaved, which is totally fair. So I want to say that. So it is, I think, a YA, maybe? Because it feels really mature, but our main character is 11. So is it like a middle grade YA? It is also part of a trilogy. Will he grow older, etc. Personally, I would like to read more, because I really got into the story with how it was written, which again made the book really unique, and it was just written really good for me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm curious to see what will happen next, because it doesn't exactly go where you think it will go. So I'm curious to see just what will happen. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a fast-paced, good book that wrenches your heart deeply, and it's a painful book. But again, can't speak about certain elements of the story, you know. But it's definitely a book with important elements to it, and yeah. So I think I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I did quite enjoy it. I do really recommend checking out black reviewers for this though. Very important to see what they have to say about it. But now maybe you at least know it exists and know stuff about it. And the whole door thing, by the way, just saying in the title, very interesting, like, symbolism for the story. I quite enjoyed that. There's not that much more to say. Said all the things that I felt was what I thought when I was reading. Recommending it sounds like a weird word to say about it. Just like, it's not a book I would go around recommending. I would still recommend it because it, for me, was a good book. It depended a bit on what the person wanted. It's definitely a book that I could bring up and say was good. If it sounds like a story for you that you want to check out, maybe because you're writing, living yourself into the story, etc. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Check out my Patreon down below if you're interested to support my channel further. And you'll see me soon in a new one. Bye!